Learn English from quotes. Mao Zedong. 2.5. War and Peace. Every communist must grasp the truth: political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. The seizure of power by armed force, the settlement of the issue by war, is the central task and the highest form of revolution. This Marxist-Leninist principle of revolution holds good universally, for China and for all other countries. Without armed struggle neither the proletariat, nor the people, nor the Communist Party would have any standing at all in China, and it would be impossible for the revolution to triumph. In these years, the 18 years since the founding of the party, the development, consolidation, and Bolshevization of our party have proceeded in the midst of revolutionary wars. Without armed struggle the Communist Party would assuredly not be what it is today. Comrades throughout the party must never forget this experience for which we have paid in blood. We are advocates of the abolition of war. We do not want war, but war can only be abolished through war, and in order to get rid of the gun it is necessary to take up the gun. We desire peace. However, if imperialism insists on fighting a war, we will have no alternative but to take the firm resolution to fight to the finish before going ahead with our construction. If you are afraid of war day in day out, what will you do if war eventually comes? First I said that the east wind is prevailing over the west wind and war will not break out, and now I have added these explanations about the situation in case war should break out. Both possibilities have thus been taken into account. People all over the world are now discussing whether or not a third world war will break out. On this question, too, we must be mentally prepared and do some analysis. We stand firmly for peace and against war. But if the imperialists insist on unleashing another war, we should not be afraid of it. Our attitude on this question is the same as our attitude towards any disturbance. First, we are against it. Second, we are not afraid of it. The First World War was followed by the birth of the Soviet Union with a population of 200 million. The Second World War was followed by the emergence of the socialist camp with a combined population of 900 million. If the imperialists insist on launching a third world war, it is certain that several hundred million more will turn to socialism, and then there will not be much room left on earth for the imperialists. It is also likely that the whole structure of imperialism will utterly collapse. The world is progressing, the future is bright, and no one can change this general trend of history. We should carry on constant propaganda among the people on the facts of world progress and the bright future ahead so that they will build their confidence in victory. Imperialism and all reactionaries are paper tigers. Just as there is not a single thing in the world without a dual nature, this is the law of the unity of opposites, so imperialism and all reactionaries have a dual nature. They are real tigers and paper tigers at the same time. In past history, before they won state power and for some time afterwards, the slave-owning class, the feudal landlord class and the bourgeoisie were vigorous, revolutionary, and progressive. They were real tigers. But with the lapse of time, because they're opposites, the slave class, the peasant class and the proletariat, grew in strength step by step, struggled against them more and more fiercely. These ruling classes changed step by step into the reverse, changed into reactionaries, changed into backward people, changed into paper tigers. And eventually they were overthrown, or will be overthrown, by the people. The reactionary, backward, decaying classes retain this dual nature even in their last life and death struggles against the people. On the one hand, they were real tigers, they devoured people, devoured people by the millions and tens of millions. The cause of the people's struggle went through a period of difficulties and hardships, and along the path there were many twists and turns. To destroy the rule of imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucrat capitalism in China took the Chinese people more than 100 years and cost them tens of millions of lives before the victory in 1949. Look. Were these not living tigers, iron tigers, real tigers? But in the end they changed into paper tigers, dead tigers, bean-curd tigers. These are historical facts. Have people not seen or heard about these facts? There have indeed been thousands and tens of thousands of them. Thousands and tens of thousands. Hence, imperialism and all reactionaries, looked at in essence, from a long-term point of view, from a strategic point of view, must be seen for what they are, paper tigers. On this we should build our strategic thinking. On the other hand, they are also living tigers, iron tigers, real tigers which can devour people. On this we should build our tactical thinking. Lifting a rock only to drop it on one's own feet is a Chinese folk saying to describe the behavior of certain fools. The reactionaries in all countries are fools of this kind. In the final analysis, their persecution of the revolutionary people only serves to accelerate the people's revolutions on a broader and more intense scale. Did not the persecution of the revolutionary people by the Tsar of Russia and by Chiang Kai-shek perform this function in the great Russian and Chinese revolutions? Over a long period we have developed this concept for the struggle against the enemy. Strategically we should despise all our enemies, but tactically we should take them all seriously. This also means that we must despise the enemy with respect to the whole, but that we must take him seriously with respect to every concrete question. If we do not despise the enemy with respect to the whole, we shall be committing the error of opportunism. Marx and Engels were only two individuals, and yet in those early days they already declared that capitalism would be overthrown throughout the world. But in dealing with concrete problems and particular enemies we shall be committing the error of adventurism unless we take them seriously. In war, battles can only be fought one by one and the enemy forces can only be destroyed one by one. Factories can only be built one by one. The peasants can only plow the land plot by plot. The same is even true of eating a meal. Strategically, we take the eating of a meal lightly, we know we can finish it. But actually we eat it mouthful by mouthful. It is impossible to swallow an entire banquet in one gulp. This is known as a piecemeal solution. In military parlance, it is called wiping out the enemy forces one by one. Dare to struggle and dare to win. If they the Kuomintang fight, we will wipe them out completely. This is the way things are. If they attack and we wipe them out, they will have that satisfaction, wipe out some satisfaction, wipe out more satisfaction, wipe out the whole lot, complete satisfaction. China's problems are complicated, and our brains must also be a little complicated. If they start fighting, we fight back, fight to win peace. If anyone attacks us and if the conditions are favorable for battle, we will certainly act in self-defense to wipe him out resolutely, thoroughly, wholly, and completely. We do not strike rashly, but when we do strike, we must win. We must never be cowed by the bluster of reactionaries. No matter when this countrywide civil war breaks out, we must be well prepared. If it comes early, say, tomorrow morning, we should also be prepared. That is point 1. In the present international and domestic situation it is possible that for a time the civil war may be kept restricted in scale and localized. That is point 2. Point 1 is what we should prepare for, point 2 is what has existed for a long time. In short, we must be prepared. Being prepared, we shall be able to deal properly with all kinds of complicated situations. People's War. Unquestionably, victory or defeat in war is determined mainly by the military, political, economic, and natural conditions on both sides. But not by these alone. It is also determined by each side's subjective ability in directing the war. In his endeavor to win a war, a military strategist cannot overstep the limitations imposed by the material conditions. Within these limitations, however, he can and must strive for victory. The stage of action for a military strategist is built upon objective material conditions, but on that stage he can direct the performance of many a drama, full of sound and color, power and grandeur. The richest source of power to wage war lies in the masses of the people. It is mainly because of the unorganized state of the Chinese masses that Japan dares to bully us. When this defect is remedied, then the Japanese aggressor, like a mad bull crashing into a ring of flames, will be surrounded by hundreds of millions of our people standing upright. The mere sound of their voices will strike terror into him, and he will be burned to death. The object of war is specifically to preserve oneself and destroy the enemy. To destroy the enemy means to disarm him or deprive him of the power to resist, and does not mean to destroy every member of his forces physically. In ancient warfare, the spear and the shield were used, the spear to attack and destroy the enemy, and the shield to defend and preserve oneself. To the present day, all weapons are still an extension of the spear and the shield. The bomber, the machine gun, the long-range gun and poison gas are developments of the spear, while the air raid shelter, the steel helmet, the concrete fortification and the gas mask are developments of the shield. The tank is a new weapon combining the functions of both spear and shield. Attack is the chief means of destroying the enemy, but defense cannot be dispensed with. In attack the immediate object is to destroy the enemy, but at the same time it is self-preservation, because if the enemy is not destroyed, you will be destroyed. In defense the immediate object is to preserve yourself, but at the same time defense is a means of supplementing attack or preparing to go over to the attack. Retreat is in category of defense and is a continuation of defense, while pursuit is a continuation of attack. It should be pointed out that destruction of the enemy is the primary object of war and self-preservation the secondary, because only by destroying the enemy in large numbers can one effectively preserve oneself. Therefore attack, the chief means of destroying the enemy, is primary, while defense, a supplementary means of destroying the enemy and a means of self-preservation, is secondary. In actual warfare the chief role is played by defense much of the time and by attack for the rest of the time, but if war is taken as a whole, attack remains primary. All the guiding principles of military operations grow out of the one basic principle, to strive to the utmost to preserve one's own strength and destroy that of the enemy. How then do we justify the encouragement of heroic sacrifice in war? Every war exacts a price, sometimes an extremely high one. Is this not in contradiction with preserving oneself? In fact, there is no contradiction at all. To put it more exactly, sacrifice and self-preservation are both opposite and complementary to each other. For such sacrifice is essential not only for destroying the enemy but also for preserving oneself. Partial and temporary non-preservation, sacrifice, or paying the price, is necessary for the sake of general and permanent preservation. From this basic principle stems the series of principles guiding military operations, all of which, from the principles of shooting, taking cover to preserve oneself, and making full use of firepower to destroy the enemy, to the principles of strategy, are permeated with the spirit of this basic principle. All technical principles and all principles concerning tactics, campaigns, and strategy represent applications of this basic principle. The principle of preserving oneself and destroying the enemy is the basis of all military principles. Our principles of operation are: 1. Attack dispersed, isolated enemy forces first, attack concentrated, strong enemy forces later. 2. Take small and medium cities and extensive rural areas first, take big cities later. 3. Make wiping out the enemy's effective strength our main objective, do not make holding or seizing a city or place our main objective. Holding or seizing a city or place is the outcome of wiping out the enemy's effective strength, and often a city or place can be held or seized for good only after it has changed hands a number of times. 4. In every battle, concentrate an absolutely superior force, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes even 5 or 6 times the enemy's strength, encircle the enemy forces completely, strive to wipe them out thoroughly and do not let any escape from the net. In special circumstances, use the method of dealing the enemy crushing blows, that is, concentrate all our strength to make a frontal attack and an attack on one or both of his flanks, with the aim of wiping out one part and routing another so that our army can swiftly move its troops to smash other enemy forces. Strive to avoid battles of attrition in which we lose more than we gain or only break even. In this way, although inferior as a whole, in terms of numbers, we shall be absolutely superior in every part and every specific campaign, and this ensures victory in the campaign. As time goes on, we shall become superior as a whole and eventually wipe out all the enemy. 5. Fight no battle unprepared, fight no battle you are not sure of winning, make every effort to be well prepared for each battle, make every effort to ensure victory in the given set of conditions as between the enemy and ourselves. Our principles of operation are: 6. Give full play to our style of fighting, courage in battle, no fear of sacrifice, no fear of fatigue, and continuous fighting, that is, fighting successive battles in a short time without rest. 7. Strive to wipe out the enemy when he is on the move. At the same time, pay attention to the tactics of positional attack and capture enemy fortified points and cities. 8. With regard to attacking cities, resolutely seize all enemy fortified points and cities which are weakly defended. At opportune moments, seize all enemy fortified points and cities defended with moderate strength, provided circumstances permit. As for all strongly defended enemy fortified points and cities, wait till conditions are ripe and then take them. 9. Replenish our strength with all the arms and most of the personnel captured from the enemy. Our army's main sources of manpower and materiel are at the front. 10. Make good use of the intervals between campaigns to rest, train and consolidate our troops. Periods of rest, training, and consolidation should not in general be very long, and the enemy should so far as possible be permitted no breathing space. These are the main methods the People's Liberation Army has employed in defeating Chiang Kai-shek. They are the result of the tempering of the People's Liberation Army in long years of fighting against domestic and foreign enemies and are completely suited to our present situation. Our strategy and tactics are based on a people's war. No army opposed to the people can use our strategy and tactics. Without preparedness, superiority is not real superiority and there can be no initiative either. Having grasped this point, a force which is inferior but prepared can often defeat a superior enemy by surprise attack. New word: paper tiger. Feedback.